You've probably heard these Bible verses your whole life. But what if I told you we've been getting them wrong? You know, the longer I live, the more I realize how easy it is to hear something over and over and start believing it without really thinking about what it means. The Bible is like that. There are verses we've heard since we were kids in church, on plaques at grandma's house, shared on Facebook, but sometimes, when you stop and really look at them, you realize we've been missing what God was actually saying. So today, let's talk about 5 Bible verses that people often misunderstand. Let me start with one you've definitely seen everywhere. You've probably seen this verse painted on gym walls, on Facebook, even printed on t-shirts. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Sounds like the perfect motivational quote, right? People use it to say they can win a game, get that job, or crush their goals. But when Paul wrote these words, he wasn't talking about success. He was writing from a cold, dark prison cell, probably hungry, lonely, and in chains. What he meant was, I can endure anything, the good days and the bad, because Christ gives me the strength to face it. This verse isn't about winning. It's about making it through the storm, knowing God is holding you up. Now here's a verse we love to pull out when life feels good. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. I've seen this one at graduations, weddings, all kinds of celebrations, and it's true God has plans for us. But do you know who he was talking to when he first said this? To his people who are living in exile far from home, their city destroyed, everything they loved gone. It wasn't a quick fix promise. It was God reminding them, even in the middle of your pain, I haven't forgotten you. I still have a plan, and it's better than anything you can imagine. This verse is about hope when life is hard, not when everything is perfect. This next one, I hear it everywhere these days. Judge not, that you be not judged. Matthew 7:1. How many times have you heard someone say, hey, don't judge me? The Bible says not to judge. It's almost like a shield people use to avoid accountability, but that's not what Jesus meant. He wasn't saying we should never judge right from wrong. He was warning us about being hypocrites, pointing out everyone else's mistakes while ignoring the mess in our own lives. Jesus is saying, before you point a finger, check your own heart. Make sure you're living right, with humility and grace. It's not about being blind. It's about being honest with yourself first. The next one I've heard misquoted my entire life. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. 1 Timothy 6:10. Most people leave out those first few words. They say, money is the root of all evil, but that's not true. Money itself isn't evil. It pays the bills, puts food on the table, helps you take care of your family. The problem is when we start loving money, when money becomes more important than people, more important than God, more important than everything else. I've seen good people lose themselves, lose their families, lose their peace, because they let money rule their hearts. God doesn't care if you have money. He cares if money has you. And finally, one of the most quoted verses in church gatherings. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. Matthew 18:20. I can't even count how many times I've heard this at small Bible studies or when only a handful of people show up to church. Hey, it's okay. Jesus is here because there's 2 of us. But if you read the full chapter, Jesus wasn't talking about church attendance. He was talking about something serious, church discipline, forgiveness, and accountability. He was saying, when believers come together to deal with hard things, to restore relationships, to show mercy, he's there. He's in the middle of it, and the beautiful part. That doesn't mean he's only with us when we're gathered. He's with you right now, whether you're sitting alone in your living room, driving to work, or lying awake at night. So there you have it, my friend, 5 Bible verses you've probably heard your whole life. But now you know the deeper meaning. The Bible isn't a book of slogans, it's a living word from God. Sometimes we hear these verses so often, we forget to stop and ask, what is God really saying to me? And I hope today you're reminded that God's truth is richer, deeper, and more beautiful than we often realize. Before you go, if you learned something new today, if something in this video made you stop and think, please give it a like, subscribe, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what other verses or stories you'd like us to talk about next. Let's grow in faith together.